it was the worst mistake I ever made, because I'm lying there and I can feel myself doing this and all this.
Yeah. Welcome back to Tied Down TV, the punk rock opinion show with me, Geoff.
I'm Danny.
And today we're doing top 5 skinhead albums. So when we say skinhead albums, we're focusing on the subculture of skinhead.
Yeah, rather than doing like an Oi list. We've been requested to do Oi list before. We've decided to focus on the subculture itself.
Yeah, primarily picking on Oi and skinhead reggae and stuff like that.
Yeah. So, let's have a look at the history of it. So I think to understand it, you've got to really have a look at the history of it. So like post World War II, you had like going into the 50s with rock and roll and that, and then obviously in England we had like the mod scene started. A lot of like in London, there was a lot of the young kids was starting to dress very snappy, and stuff like that, listening to a lot of modern jazz and stuff.
R&B,
and all that. And then going into the mid 60s, a lot of the like what you'd call street level mods, that maybe couldn't really afford the clothes. They couldn't really, they didn't really have any connection to the music. They were starting to appear with shaved heads and stuff. And then at the same time, you had like a lot of immigration coming from Jamaica at the time, and a lot of these families were being put in the same areas of like London, where a lot of these working class kids lived. And with them, they came over and they brought with them a few things. They brought music, they brought a sense of style, they brought food and all that stuff. And they seemed to really strike a rapport, if you will, with working class kids at the time. Yeah. And, they're hanging out, they're socialising together. And it's mainly the image of the rude boy, the Jamaican rude boy, that really seems to to strike something with the working class kids in England. They can really connect to it. And a rude boy is basically in places like Kingston, Jamaica, that's really kind of like a smart wearing, tough, if you like a street kid, but dressed smart kind of thing. Yeah. And working class white kids at the time in London, wherever, they kind of build a rapport with that kind of thing. They kind of take some of the images, a lot of what they're wearing. They love that, the music as well, the ska music that they're bringing over.
And rocksteady stuff like that.
And well, at the time it would have been ska, wouldn't it? And blue beat. Yeah, and that's your birth of your original skinhead then. Yeah. And at the time, late 60s, it's for a while it's just about clothes, music, going to football, stuff like that, hanging out with your mates. Then going into kind of like the early 60s, the early 70s, things kind of like change in England, the glam thing kind of comes in. A lot of the original skinheads start growing their hair out, wearing flares, stuff like that. Music kind of moves on a little bit. And if you look at a lot of the old footage of football violence on the terraces in the early to mid 70s, a lot of what would have been skinheads, they're now wearing, you see them fighting and they're wearing flares on the terraces and punching hell out of each other. Yeah. And then punk happens in 77, 76, whatever, and the skins kind of come back out of the shadows a little bit, and mainly because there's nowhere else for them to go. Do you know what I mean? And they can't really connect with punk because to them a lot of it is kind of like arty student types, you know what I mean? And they can't really connect with it until bands like Sham 69 and Cockspara come along, and those bands are singing about working class issues, and they can connect with that, which starts the skinheads, starts a new wave of skinheads. Maybe the original skinheads have grown up a little bit, but the new,
it's like a new generation.
A new generation come along, and it's around this time that like bands inspired by Sham 69 and Cockspara and that start coming along, and then what we know as Oi came along from that. Yeah. And I think it's around that time. I mean, don't get me wrong, racism in the 60s was like definitely it was almost like a rite of passage, I guess, for a lot of people. It was so commonplace. In 1968, you had Enoch Powell make that River of Blood speech. So around that time, it would have been a confusing time to be a kid. You've got all these Jamaican mates, they brought this brilliant music, you're hanging out with them, but then you've got your dad maybe, or your granddad, saying all this stuff, and all this, and you've got these politicians saying this. So it would have been a confusing time then. But I think then with the arrival, I think with Oi coming along, that kind of gave the music, it politicised a lot of the music then, and you had another element coming in. And it was around that time that I think a lot of far-right groups like the National Front were starting to see that a lot of these angry youths were turning up to football and to punk gigs, and they were sending basically people to recruit these kids and brainwash them basically. And that's where I think kind of Skinhead kind of gets a little bit corrupted. Yeah. If you would say.
And I think sometimes, maybe if you don't know, maybe based on like films you've seen and things like that, when people say skinhead to somebody they don't know, often that might be the image that comes to mind.
I think it's easy for a lot of people who don't know.
They just associate it straight away with you know, that right wing political view and things like that.
Definitely. And me and you have put together a list of groups. We're both big into skinhead reggae stuff, so that was quite easy. We're both like a bit of Oi as well. Yeah. We haven't decided to not pick any of the two-tone bands, simply for the reason, like, the Specials, for instance, are going to get mentioned a lot in this video anyway, because they covered a lot of the groups that we're going to be talking about. Yeah. And obviously that album was so important to me and you, and it's kind of like in there on its own. So mainly to give space for the rest of these groups, we've decided to not pick any of the two-tone groups. So I'm going to go first, and I'm going to pick an album where, you know, it's the very beginnings, if you would like, and I've gone for Desmond Dekker's and the Aces 007 Shantytown. The first song, Shantytown, along with something like Rudy, A Message to You by Dandy Livingston, is probably up there with the best rude boy anthems. You know what I mean? You hear it and it's you know, it's straight away, it's telling you that it's describing these young lads getting in trouble in Kingston, Jamaica. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? And this album specifically, I mean, Desmond Dekker is an absolute legend, and I could have picked one of about 4 of his albums. Fucking brilliant. Yeah, I think back in '69, the go-to album for him amongst young skinheads would have been This Is Desmond Dekker, which is a compilation that came out in '69, which had all his hits on from that time. But I've decided to go for this one simply because it's got so many rude boy anthems, so to speak. And if you're talking about rude boys in the mid-'60s, you're really talking about the beginning of Skinhead. Yeah, of course. The roots of Skinhead is all here. You've got obviously Shantytown, you've got Rude Boy Train, Rudy Got Soul, all these amazing tunes. Obviously, he went on to be on Top of the Pops with songs like Israelites, which was also a big Skinhead anthem as well.
First ever Jamaican single to reach #1, that I think.
There you go, yeah. So Desmond Dekker, like I said, I could have picked Israelites, the album. I could have picked Intensified, but he is someone who you can't really leave off a list like this. And I've decided to go for this one because Shantytown is such a brilliant song, and yeah, all the way through.
It's the best, isn't it?
Yes, it's literally the roots of Skinhead. They're all in this album here. And this is from 1967, I believe. Yeah. So it's going way back. Him along with like Prince Buster and Laurel Lincoln and Derek Morgan. You know, these are like the godfathers of it, and Prince Buster and that. So yeah, that was an easy pick for me.
Amazing, good choice. So my first pick, I'm gonna go with an Oi one first. I've gone for The Good, The Bad, and The Foreskins by The Foreskins. Now, this is their debut release. It's half side A's studio, side B's live. A couple of like their most biggest and well-known tunes obviously appeared on here. It's a mixture of Oi, punk and ska, but I feel like there's other elements definitely in there.
Well, the song Chaos is like a fucking hardcore tune, isn't it?
Exactly.
And Evil as well.
Yeah,
Evil.
Yeah. But I'm talking even like, so like obviously the big tunes like Plastic Gangsters for instance, but that's got like this honky tonk piano thing. Yeah. But it also, I don't know, maybe other people don't hear it, but it reminds me a bit of like vaudeville, like, you know the way like Madness incorporated that into their sound. I don't know, like really old like English like music hall stuff going on. Yeah. It just, that's kind of, I don't know, like say whether that's right, you know, other people might disagree, but it's this is the debut. I think they formed in like '79. This came out in '82, but it's the third lineup of the band. Yeah. So the bass player, what was his name? Hoxton. I can't think now. It'll come to me. Hoxton Tom McCourt, I think it is. He's the only like kind of thingy one, but it topped the UK indie charts. It was huge, this I believe, and it also broke the top 100 in the mainstream chart. I don't know what number it got. It's probably not very high. Yeah. But it's you know, it's melodic, like I say. There's some musical diversity. The biggest tune, and obviously Plastic Gangsters, ACAB as well, is one of the other big tunes on here. One of my favourites on here, Yesterday's Heroes. I think a lot of even the studio ones were songs that existed prior with the other lineups of the band, but I just think this is great, like really fun. Like the studio songs, like I said, there's a good variations, good melody in there. It's, you know, lyrically, I think they touch on like violence, they touch on that working class kind of element that you saying, and obviously, you know, anti-authority with your ACAB. I always kind of think, even though they're singing about like violence and fighting and things like that, at times it's not glorifying it. It's their life experience. It's what they're seeing when they look out their window, kind of thing. You know, it's shining a light rather than you know, saying this is how you should act or whatever. But I think if you've not heard anything like, you know, Oi, Skinhead thingy, and you want to listen to some, like, this is a good starting point, I would say, because it's like say, like the melody, and there's a good variation in sound, and it's just fucking cool, man. It's good tunes, catchy. Definitely go and check it out.
Yeah, they're one of the best Oi bands, definitely.
Yeah, I would agree.
They were probably the first Oi band I got into, actually, the Foreskin.
100% the same as why I wanted that album. Like,
but they're one of my favourites, but not quite my favourite Oi band. This is my favourite Oi band. This is my favourite Oi album. The Business Suburban Rebels. So this is an unopened copy, because I do have an old copy that I play, and this one's staying right in this packaging. It's a limited release of only 500, reissued by Radiation. This has got some of the catchiest sing-alongs ever in it. This is the kind of album that you listen to it, and then 2 days later, you're still singing the tunes. You don't even realise you're doing it, you know what I mean? You'll be walking along going, Harry, 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 May, Harry, and all this. You know, Get Out While You Can, Drinking and Driving, all these amazing tunes on here, Work or Riot. Amazing. Obviously, it touches on a lot of the working class issues, you know, mass unemployment, violence of football, all that type of stuff. Where is it? The Real Enemy, is a song that's been covered by loads and loads of bands over the years. Do you know what I mean? And it's just, like I say, it's just one of the catchiest tunes ever. It's violent, it's working class, and it's in your face. And they've got a lot of good albums, these, but this is the one where to start. The Business Suburban Rebels.
Yeah, it's a classic, isn't it? That thing. Second pick for me, so I've gone Return of Django by the Upsetters, Trojan Records, 1969. The man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Lee Scratch Perry produced, wrote, so didn't play any instruments, did he? So obviously the Upsetters are a band he assembled, but it's fucking great. I dare say, even if you don't know anything about like Trojan, Skinhead reggae, you'll have heard the title track, most likely. It's one of the biggest singles that came out of it. Yeah, very recognisable. It's probably been on adverts, all kinds. A little bit of an outlier on the album, I think, to be fair, because like a lot of it's more organ and keyboard-y driven rather than the that tune. But fucking amazing. Like, you can stick this on, get lost in it. I do anyway.
Well, I made the mistake of trying to fall asleep to that album once. I thought, I need something that isn't too heavy.
Yeah.
I made the bad mistake of trying to fall asleep to Return of Django by the Upsetters once, and it was the worst mistake I ever made, because I'm lying there and I can feel myself doing this and all this, like Dollar in the Teeth and fucking amazing. Man from MI5. Obviously, Return of Django. It's one of the most recognisable covers, as well as you know that tune. As soon as you hear that, heard it on adverts and everything. An absolute Skinhead anthem, definitely, without a doubt.
It's I think, again, even not just like I said, that song's an outlier, but I think this album's a little bit of an outlier as well, because like I know at the time Lee Perry said he was very influenced by like westerns, obviously, you know, the title being a reference to the character Django, and you know, spy movies, like stuff that was going on at the time. So a lot of those keyboard riffs and licks, or like organ ones that you hear on here, are influenced by that kind of stuff. But it's just fucking, it's fucking great. Like you say, it's not easy, hard listening. It's not easy listening, really, if you couldn't fall asleep to it. It's fucking lovely. I think you get lost in it, like I say, and groove along. But they've done other stuff, like you know, obviously Lee Perry being the guy he was. You know, there's dub albums and things like that by the Upsetters, which are also great if you're into dub. But if you're looking for Skinhead reggae, like I say, title track is the anthem, but this is a fucking great one. Go and check it out.
Now we're talking about Lee Perry, obviously legendary producer from Jamaica. Which brings us to my first of the week, my first true or false question. Right. True or false, legendary Jamaican music producer Lee Perry once burned down his famous recording studio, Black Ark, consequently destroying master tapes of artists such as Bob Marley and Paul McCartney. because he was convinced the facility was being haunted by vampires. True or false?
True.
It is true.
You know,
well done.
Very true story.
Yeah.
Quite infamous in it because I believe he thought he'd invoked these evil vampires and spirits in like a piece of music he created in there.
Well, I was lucky enough to see Lee Perry live before he died, and judging on what he had in his hand and was smoking at the time, if he was probably on that stuff at the time, I'm not surprised he thought it was vampires.
He definitely did.
So my next pick is another reggae album.
Nice.
And it's Symarip, Skinhead, Moonstomp. Now, this is from 1970. I think it was actually recorded in 69, the golden age for skinhead reggae.
Definitely.
Now, the reason I think this is important, now, sometimes people don't realise this is not the band, this is just a gang of skinheads. That is the band right there. So, this album, I think a lot of like the West Indian artists were seeing how much skinheads in England and Britain were really enjoying, really took it upon themselves to be so, they really took it to their hearts, the whole Scar thing and that. And this album by Symarip, these guys thought, you know what, let's make an album for these kids. And these are talking about, if you're a skinhead, they're talking about you.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now, the title track, Skinhead Moonstomp, it's as soon as you hear it, I want all you skinheads and all that. It's actually a cover of a couple of tunes, actually. It's originally by Derek Morgan, Moonhop, which is an album I also have. And it's a Sam and Dave track as well. So obviously skinheads really like their soul music too. And it's, it's a combination. It's got its finger in a few pies, this song. But, you've got Skinhead Gale, Skinhead Jamboree, Skinflint, and my favourite tune, Try Me Best. So it's very iconic. Recognisable will cover. I think everyone who's into Skinhead has probably seen this. And it's just a great, great album from the golden age. So, yeah, Symarip, Skinhead, Moonstomp.
Nice. Excellent. Pick number 3 for me. I've gone for Dave and Ansel Collins, Double Barrel. Again, title track, highly recognisable. They were Dave, I can't remember his surname. He was the vocalist. Ansel Collins was the like a keyboard player. They worked with Lee Perry, funny enough, in his Black Ark studio. Yeah. And they came together for the title track first. They recorded the single. And like I say, you love all their edit. But and it was a hit, and they ended up recording the album, which came out in 71. It's not massively long, but it's great. I think every song on it is great, to be fair. That obviously the title track's a big one, Monkey Spanner as well. Huge, amazing song.
My favourite tune, actually, apart from obviously Double Barrel, is Count the Days. I love that tune.
Great song.
Now, the thing about that album, and you can understand, like when I said, like a lot of skinheads were into the soul music. I think they particularly like the Stax stuff and the Tamla stuff. Yeah. Now, that to me, if you've ever listened to Booker T and the MG's album Green Onions, I think there's a lot of that kind of sound in Green Onions. That album, which has kind of got that with kind of like a James Brown MC and kind of thing going over with like the Booker T sound. That's probably what I'd kind of describe that to someone. Do you know what I mean?
That's a fair take.
Yeah.
Saying before, funny enough, Desmond Dekker had the first Jamaican #1 single in the UK. The second one was the title track to this. Yeah. Each #1 sold like 300,000 copies or something like that. I don't know if that's globally or whatever, but still massive. On show, I think it was a subsidiary of shows. Anyway, it's a fucking great one. Like I say, not massive amounts to say about it other than its brilliance. Much like a lot of the skinhead reggae ones I've picked, I think you can throw them on front to back. That they hold up as an album, even though a lot of that stuff great singles came out of that. This is definitely one of the little gems of the albums, I feel like, as well, from that period that's there. Definitely have a look for that as well. Go and check it out. Yeah,
I'm going back to Oi for this one, and I'm going for the Opressed Oi music. The whole album is about being a skinhead, literally. So if I said Desmond Dekker, like a lot of that covered being a rude boy, and obviously Symarip, was a lot of the tunes were designed for skinheads in dance halls. But this is real working class punk rock. They're talking about being a skinhead, whether it's just sticking your braces and boots on, whether it's fighting a football, whether it's fighting with the police. It covers it's basically talking about your life as a skinhead. And the singer Rolly Moreno, he was I think pretty much credited with bringing sharp skinheads against racial prejudice over to Britain.
UK, yeah.
I believe it was him who designed the logo with the Trojan head and the sharp and all that. But yeah, it's a really fucking great album. My favourite tune is Urban Soldiers, because they're skinheads. Do you know what I mean? And I just think, similar to the Business album, it's ultra catchy. I think a lot of the best Oi bands, you can't help but find them ridiculously catchy, sing along. Well, a lot of it was, like I say,
football tennis.
Yeah, it's a lot of it. Football violence was a big part of Skinhead, and I think a lot of the Oi stuff, they've got the terrorist kind of chant in mind when they write a lot of the music,
100%.
and I think a lot of the bands we've picked here were the best at that. You know what I mean? So yeah, the Opressed, Oi music, nice. And I believe this is from 1984.
Nice. So I'm going back to Oi as well. So my next one, I've gone with Blitz, Voice of the Generation. Absolute classic Oi album. Fucking great. This came out in 82 as well, which seems to be for like Oi and Skinhead, Oi and punk, like that came out around that period. It's a great year.
Yeah.
It sounds like, I don't know, it's dead tinny in it, like the production on it is really thin but raw, but it's still fucking great. Like that kind of adds to the charm of it. It's just fast punk Oi music, but it varies. Like there's definitely some post-punk influence in there, little bits. There's definitely some little bits of
well, I said to you, didn't I?
Well.
When you told me you were into that, I said to you, I think part of the reason you might you might like that is because I don't think the sound is that far away from Stiff Little Fingers.
Oh no, definitely not.
You know what I mean?
Like,
it's
definitely up that street.
Yeah.
But this has got some absolute classics. Like they open with "We Are the Boys," which is a great tune. We're the boys. Yeah. Amazing. Voice of Generation's a great tune. Obviously,
Warriors was covered famously by Judge, New York.
I was going to say they've been covered by Negative Approach, Judge, Rancid, Agnostic Front, Warzone.
Yeah.
That's how massive this band are, to be fair, especially in America. Like, but it's just fucking so cool, like so good. Like, go and check it out. Like I say, massive. They covered where is it? Vicious by Lou Reed.
Oh yeah,
it's the first tune on there, Transformer. If you're familiar with that album, they do a cracking cover of it. To be fair, it's really cool. Yeah. But that just shows again like a little breadth of their influence, not just straight down the middle punk and that. Like they said, they love like Joy Division, they love dub music as well. And I know if you listen to some of the singles, like obviously they released post this, it's quite a new wave, even some of it and stuff like that. They're a fucking brilliant band. Definitely, like
100%.
This,
amazing.
Like you said about Foreskins, this for me, I think is probably the best.
We haven't picked, in my opinion.
Album,
I think everything we picked is good.
Like,
I mean,
all pretty much.
Yeah. I mean, we're talking about Oi now, but I think a lot of reggae and a lot of music associated with Skinhead, I do believe, soul, ska. I believe it's some of the best music ever made. I honestly do.
It's hard to disagree with a lot of that, to be fair. But yeah, that's like I think again, like I said about Foreskins as well. Like these aren't glorifying violence as such as just painting that picture of that's the environment these are growing up in. As you say, Oi tends to be a very working class, and in the fucking early 80s, if you were working class, you were shit out of luck a lot of the time, weren't you? Go and check that out. It's fucking great. Blow your socks off.
I think when you're talking about, I'm going back to, I'm finishing on a reggae album again, and I think if you're talking about the artist, I think as well, a lot of 60s reggae stuff, I think the producers was also just as important. Yeah. Obviously, we've discussed Lee Perry, who was a huge name, but I also think another huge name was Leslie Kong. And this album here is definitely my favourite Jamaican album ever.
Yeah.
I love it. How many times have I gone on about this to you? Right, so
that's it, exactly.
In obviously in the early 60s, you had ska music that was very fast. Some of it was so fast it was, you had to be pretty fit to keep up with the beat.
Yeah.
As things got to the late 60s, ska slowly like transformed into something called rocksteady, which was a little bit slower, a little bit more soul influenced. And for me, this is definitely my favourite period of Jamaican music. It's a lot, and a lot of it is based around vocal trios. So you had these guys, the Pioneers, you had the Paragons, you had the Melodians, you had the Kingstonians. All of these bands are absolutely fantastic. I had to pick one. It was hard. But I think the Pioneers, for me, this is one of my favourite albums of all time. Yeah. If I had to pick 5 albums of all music, I think this would probably be in it. Mm-hmm. Now, the first song, Long Shot, I said on an album, on a video not that long ago, that the Specials did a cover and improved it. that does not take away from how good this song is.
It's just a great fucking song.
Yeah, this just an unbelievably good song. It's actually about a horse dying during a horse race.
Oh, that explains the cover, actually.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Long Shot kicked the bucket. I guess the sort of the horse is called Long Shot.
Yeah.
And so it's actually got a really grim. It's actually telling a really grim story, but it's such a happy beat, and you can't help but dance to it. And then the Specials obviously did a cover of it, and it turned it into an absolute skank fest. Yeah. It's an incredible version of it. But that, like I said, that takes nothing away from the original, which is an unbelievable skinhead, rock-steady anthem. Yeah. Produced by Leslie Kong, who also produced that Desmond Dekker album, produced so many fucking brilliant albums from this time. And there's beautiful harmonies all the way through this. Mother Ritty, Bring Him Home, stuff like that. Boss Festival, Belly Gut, Poor Ramesses. It's just full of amazing harmonies all the way through. And, oh God, I love it so much, honestly.
I said to you, didn't I asked you if you were picking that, and I was like, if you don't pick that, I'd be very surprised, because out of all, skinhead, reggae, Jamaican music in general, when we've discussed it, you always bring that.
Everything about it is right. It came out in 1969, right in the perfect year and everything. Yeah. So,
excellent.
What a brilliant cover, too. I always loved the artwork on the early Trojan albums, where it was just the artist with maybe like a Caribbean background kind of thing. I loved it. It's amazing. Okay. So that's my last pick. Long Shot by the Pioneers.
Nice. So my last pick. So I've gone for Engine 54 by the Ethiopians. However, I've got it on vinyl, and for some reason, I think it's a dodgy copy because it's actually billed as Train to Skaville.
Well, I actually have the proper version of that, and even though the photo is the same, it's a different
like a resolution.
Yeah. So, and it's also as well. So your version has got Train to Skaville. Yeah. Mine says that, but it says. Sure, it says like "Go Rock Steady" with the Ethiopians,
I think that's a compilation one, is it? The Train to Skaville. Anyway.
Yeah.
But like this is it's definitely I can't remember. I didn't pay loads for it either. So anyway, but the track listing's exactly the same. This was one me and you actually
had a fight over,
didn't we? But fuck me, man. Out of all of them, I think this has got the sweetest, most beautiful vocals out of them all. Absolutely love it. Like I said before, like you can sit and get lost in all the reggae fit ones we picked, I think, but I think this, it's gorgeous. Gorgeous. The opening track, Engine 54, Train to Skaville, the big tune on it. I believe these were the first, one of the first bands to come and tour the UK actually in Jamaica, because these had fucking bags of hits over there.
Yeah.
But it's just fucking, like, every song on it, every song, guarantee it. My Love. How good's that? That's got like a soul-y kind of feel to it. It's just the beautiful, sweet melodies again, a vocal harmony group.
It's like I said to you before. I think the rocksteady era of Jamaican music, when you had the vocal trios, I honestly think that it's some of the best music ever made. I honestly do.
This is a 10.
Yeah.
In out of them, like you say, I suppose all what we picked pretty much are, but. Just the Ethiopians, I'm telling you, like you said about the Pioneers, like I think this is probably one of my favourites, if not my favourite out of all the reggae ones I picked. Highly, highly recommended.
Yeah.
Don't get conned, go and buy the Engine 54, not the Train to Skaville vinyl, but it still plays and it sounds fucking beautiful. Yeah. That's my last pick.
Okay, so that leads us to my second true or false question.
Whoa.
Right. I suppose it's oil related more than reggae related. Okay, so true or false? New York skinhead band Agnostic Front were once booked to play local festival Liscard Alive, but had to leave before playing after guitarist Vinny Stigma was surrounded by a gang of youths belonging to the local travellers community who forced him to swap his guitar for a gat gun.
False.
It is false.
Nice one. So that's our picks.
What are you picking for an honourable mention?
Oh yeah, so we're picking 2 honourable mentions, aren't we? So
I am. I don't know if you are.
I am as well.
Okay, I'm going to go first.
Go on.
I'm going to go Cockney Rejects Greatest Hits Volume 1 as an Oi honourable mention, and as a reggae honourable mention. You can't leave 2 Tibbet off here. You just can't do it. So I'm going to pick Monkey Man by Toots and the Maytals, or the Maytals.
So mine, I'm going to pick Last Resort, Way of Life, Skinhead Anthems as my Oi pick, and I'm going to pick J Allstars, Liquidator for my reggae pick. And so join us next week when we're going to be doing top 5
UK hardcore.
Nice. Don't forget, like, subscribe, go and ring that bell, jump on the socials, Instagram, Facebook, and all that. Give us a like and a follow. Thanks for watching. That's what I say. That's what I do.